Hey everybody, this is Carlo from Forge Glory Custom Leathercraft. I'm doing some very unique art on this heat shield, and I wanted to do just wanted to do a video of it so you all could see, something I've never done before. So this is a heat shield for Indian motorcycle, one of the bigger bikes, bigger than a Scout. And he wanted this as a memorial, or to represent his grandmother and his grandfather. So he said, thing he remembers about his grandmother is her heart. She was all heart. But he didn't want, the traditional Valentine's Day looking heart. He wanted, a real looking heart. So that's what I'm doing here. As you can see over here, not sure if you can see it, but there's the art he sent me that he wanted. I don't know, I thought you guys might think this one was interesting the way it is. I think it looks awesome. So the leather has already been cased, which means the leather has been wet down, which allows me to do this carving. So if you haven't watched my videos before, this is a swivel knife. It's called a swivel knife because the way that it's screwed, you can screw it as tight as you want, but it's still going to swivel. And that helps you get all the little curves and everything that you need to be able to make the art. Sharp swivel knife is one of the most important things when working with vegetable tan leather. This is Herman Oak vegetable tan leather. It's 10 to 11 ounce is what I use, and that refers to the thickness of the leather. It's funny, other countries, they go by millimeters and we still go by ounces to measure the thickness. But yeah. I don't know, I thought you guys might think it's interesting to see this unique art going on. The other side's pretty cool too. Said his grandparents were Jewish, and so we got this tree with a Jewish letter here, and the date of birth of his grandfather. So this side's for his grandfather, and this is it's gonna have a black edge, the art in black, and then a brown background to match his bike, the unique colors that he has on his bike. And then this is going to have a black edge, brown background, and I'm going to use different colors. I'm going to match these colors of the art that he sent me. So pretty much I use so yeah, well, let's talk about the casing. So if you haven't watched before, casing is wetting down the leather, which makes it pliable so that I can do all the art on it. So I can get all these marks and everything on it. There's several ways to case the leather. My preferred method, and some people will be like, "Oh my gosh, why are you doing that?" And some people will be like, "Yeah, that's a great way to do it." So it's all about what you prefer. But my preferred method for casing the leather is just getting a spray bottle like this one, spraying the leather down, let it absorb into the leather, and then it's pliable. Some people will take the leather, wet it down, put it in a plastic bag, and then put it in the refrigerator. And so the plastic bag makes, with a little bit of time, it makes the water go throughout the whole piece of leather, and makes the whole thing pliable. Not just the top, but the underneath, and all the way through. I've found that I don't need it that wet, and I don't understand why others do. So I don't do that, and it just makes how long, because once you apply the art, then you have to dye it, and so if the whole piece of leather is wet throughout the whole thing, then you're going to be waiting for the whole thing to dry. So you got another, you're adding more time. And you guys are already pissed off at me because I'm backed up 3 months on orders, so I don't think I want to add any more time when I don't need to. But that's what a lot of people do. They'll soak the whole thing down, and they'll let it sit in the refrigerator for 24 hours. And they put it in the refrigerator because wet leather will mold, and so you want to stop it from molding. And so the refrigerator does that. So once it's cased, you got enough water on it, you can carve it, and you can use your tools. Now, every piece of art that I do is actually gone over 3 times. So if I'm doing original art, I draw it up, so that's once. And then when I put it on the leather, I'll put my stencil over the leather, and then I'll use this and I'll draw on it, and that'll make the impressions in the leather. So that's twice. And then I remove the template, and then go over it with a swivel knife. That's 3 times. And then after that, I go over it with the tools to make all the different shapes and bevels and all that. That's 4. And then I go over it again with dye, which makes 5. So at a minimum 3, if they sent, like in this one, they sent me this art, this is what they wanted, and so that's what I'm putting on there. It makes things a lot easier for me. I don't have to come up with something original. But I can come up with something original. But yeah, every piece of art, 5 times sometimes. Okay, a little lost here. There we go. I'm loving how this is turning out. So, I had a question for everybody about my YouTube videos. You know, a lot of YouTubers out there, they use these intros and, you know, they're like sounds of motorcycles and some kind of music going on in the background. I don't know. My shop is about, getting back to the basics of artistic leather work, functional, making functional pieces of leather in the old traditional artisan ways. So I feel like an intro and all of that would be, I don't know, too much. You know, it doesn't really go along with my theme of going back to traditional ways, but maybe there is an intro that I could do that would really personify um, the image of my shop that I'm trying to portray. What do you guys think? Should I do an intro? Should I try to find an intro, or just leave it the way it is, where I just start out the video saying, "Hey, this is Carlo from Forge Glory Custom Leathercraft, and welcome." What do you think? What should I do? In the comments, please leave a comment with what you think I should do. Should I look like those professional YouTubers? That's the thing. I'm not a professional YouTuber. I'm a leather craftsman, and I do these videos so that you guys can see it. So, if you watched my videos in the past, whenever I do this kind of beveling, this is a beveler. Whenever I do this edge beveling, I usually just use hand pressure. But as you can see now, I'm using the hammer. And that's just, when you use a hammer, you get more depth, and I really want this heart to pop out more. So I'm using the hammer on it. But I'm only going to use it to show the depth between the heart and the background. And so on these other places, like here's a valve and here's another valve. So on these other places, I'm just going to use my hand pressure. And not get the really deep beveling. So it's beveled, but not a very deep beveling, unless, like right here, I think this one could use the hammer, this line, because it's showing the inside, but I'm still not going to do it as deep as the edge, because it's showing the inside, and so I really want to show that contrast there. Little details that most people using their naked eye, probably wouldn't notice or see. But, the trained leather craftsman does notice. And it gives, to the over, most people, they wouldn't be like, oh, well, that side, the edges are really beveled and the other parts aren't, when you're looking at a piece of art, you don't see those little details, but you feel them, like you know what's there. Just like with any painting, a painter would decide to use a different method of painting than what he usually does to get a different effect, and that's what I'm doing here. See how it just makes it deeper, like right here? Not that deep. Here, you can really see how deep it is. You know, you're getting a real contrast, and so it's giving it more, you know, a more lifelike feeling, more rounded feeling than just something stale on a stale drawing. You know, a stale drawing on a piece of paper gives it more life. But then there are things where you know, you want them to look stale on a piece of paper. You know, and it's not, maybe stale's the wrong word for it, but it's just a different art form that you can use. There we go. I think it's popping up pretty good. So I'm using a maul here. I think it's about a 3-pound maul. And so when you're picking out your maul, you need to decide what weight you want. If you pick out a 5 or a 6-pound maul, might be too heavy for you. You'll be able to get a you know, a deeper impression with the heavier mauls. You know, when you're just tapping. But you'll also have a lot more fatigue on your wrist if the maul is too heavy for you. So I think, yeah, this one's a 3-pound, and it's a Al Stolman, you know, one of the better brands out there. So see, that's why I usually just use hand pressure, because I don't like those little ridges there. You got to go over them anyway. And if, you know, the art that I'm doing doesn't really matter, you know, if it stands out or not, then you know, why use a hammer? Why use a maul? But on those pieces where I want it to stand out, then I use a maul, and this is definitely one of those pieces. And this, the mauls, the difference between a maul and a hammer for this is the balance. You know, it's pretty well balanced, and so you grab it where the fulcrum. So if you remember physics, what a fulcrum is, if you grab where the fulcrum is, and then all you're doing is this instead of hammering, which creates a lot of fatigue. And if you're going to be doing leather for 12 hours a day, you want to save yourself as much fatigue as you can. Alright. Not sure if you can see it in the video, but that's really making this heart pop out. The deeper edge. And so all these other veins, and I think we have I think this is right here, these two are the fatty tissues. Miss some lines here. but hand pressure is perfect for them. So with hand pressure, you're not going to get as deep, but you really don't want the art as deep as the edge. And I want, the smooth lines, and so I don't want to use them. I don't want to use the maul, which gives me those kind of little divots everywhere. Especially in these little tight spaces, using I could use a lightweight hammer to do it, but I prefer the nice crisp edge. There we go. And now for these veins. And when he sent this to me, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. It's something that, I do whatever you guys tell me to do, within reason. And so, my experience with the art that I do is limited to what you guys are willing to pay me to do. And so when I got something really unique, I like to show it off a little bit. And as I say on my website, I can do pretty much any art that you want. So there's that traditional, what's called the Sheridan style, with all the paisleys and the flower-looking things and all that stuff. I am absolutely horrible at that type of art, so I don't do it. You're gonna have to get somebody else to do that for you. I'm not the guy. I don't get it. And on top of on top of me not being good at it, I don't even like it. It's not my style, not what I want, not what I want to be doing. So, I have to pass on those things. Another thing that another type of art that I've refused to do is people's horrible, some people that got some pretty bad tattoos out there. Your tattoo artist, maybe it was his first time, and maybe he didn't know what he was doing. Maybe he should have had somebody else do it for him. But when they got those bad tattoos, yep, sorry. If it's an ugly piece of art, I know, and I hurt one person's feeling. I was just like, I can't do that. It's not what I'm trying to do here. If people saw my name on that, they would think I'm a horrible artist, and I know that hurts some people's feelings because it's a tattoo that you got on your body and you thought it was good enough to go on your body for the rest of your life. But if I did it, I'm risking losing future jobs because they'll be like, oh, that's what he's going to do? I'd rather go with somebody who's better, even though the art isn't actually mine. They're going to be like, oh, well, that's what he does, so I'm not going to go there because I don't like that piece of art. And that's, bad exposure for my shop. And, I've had to as politely as I can, I said, no, I can't do that art. And, I'll send something else and say, hey, I can do this. And then they get upset that I don't want to do their tattoo. And it's just awkward because you like your tattoos. That's what you wanted on your body for the rest of your life. And I'm like, your tattoo artist was probably a beginner. And, I'm not I'm not shaming beginner artists. You know, everybody's got to start somewhere. But he probably should have been working on pig skin instead of your skin, so so he can get his art down right. Then you know you have those tattoos where people are just doing them in their basements and whatnot, and whew, I had some friends in high school who did that. Somebody got a needle and an ink pen, and they're giving themselves prison style tattoos. It was bad. A lot of bad tattoos came out of that. So, how does that look? Ooh, got to do some more veins here. Here we go. As Bob Ross would say, happy little veins. I don't know. Talking about tattoos, have you seen anybody with a really bad tattoo? Yeah, they've some of those people with really bad tattoos that you're just like, oh, you poor thing, what did they do to you? Yep, some of those people have come to my shop and asked, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, oh, wow, that's a tattoo. And I have to find a way to let them down. But other than that, you know, it's a good, decent piece of art. I'd love to do it. So how does that look? Maybe if I put it to the side, you can see more of the lumps and the details that make it look like a real heart. Anyway, thanks for watching. The next video, I'll be dyeing them. Have a good one. Remember, here at Forge Glory, we're all about the leather, your design, and my shop coming together to make some awesome products. Have a good one.